Hello everyone, this is Magic Bolt TV. My name is Galaxy, and today we'll be going over all the basics that you need to know in Overwatch. So strap on in and grab your controllers and keyboards, and let's get right on into this. So the first topic we are covering is not aiming, but more precisely is how you aim or your grip. This is because to play and aim the best, you have to find the best aim style for you. Everybody will not have the same preference, so I will go over the 3 grips for PC players and 2 grips for console players. Starting off with the PC grips, you have the palm, tip, and claw grips. Now an important thing to note is to always keep your hand and forearm in a straight line to prevent damage to your wrist, and it is also more overall comfortable for yourself. The palm grip is when you lay your palm on the back of the mouse and you have your fingers laid flat across both M1 and M2, as well as the scroll wheel. The pros of this grip is that your aim is more accurate, but with this increased accuracy, your speed is a little lower than the other 2 grips we will talk about. So this is the grip I use because I feel like it's the most comfortable for me, and also because I feel like my accuracy is the best of this. Moving on to the next grip, the tip grip. It is almost the exact same thing as the palm grip. So the only distinguishable difference is that your palm is no longer touching the mouse. So that means only the tips of your fingers are. This is like the all-around balanced grip style out of the 3. It is less accurate than the palm grip, but it is faster than it. The last PC grip is the claw grip, which is made by arching your fingers to hold on to the mouse. It kind of looks like how they did Kung Fu hands in the movies. This also involves movement of the whole arm, unlike just the wrist. This is the fastest of all the grips, but it's also the least accurate of the grips. Now, just because it's the least accurate does not mean you cannot just keep working on it over and over again, because the more you use this grip, the more comfortable you'll become with it, and the better you can become with it too. Moving on to the controller grips, the first controller grip is called the traditional grip, and then a variation of this grip is called the claw grip. So the traditional grip is more likely what you grew up using. It is how you probably instinctually even pick up a controller. Your thumbs are on the toggles, your pointer finger is on the bumpers, neither your middle or ring finger is on the trigger. So that's the most basic one. With the claw grip for the controller, your left hand is going to be the same, but your right hand is what changes significantly. The pointer finger is now arched down to hit the ABYX or the triangle, square, circle, X buttons. The middle finger is on the bumpers now, and the ring finger or the pinky finger is on the triggers. Now, between the 2 grips, I believe the claw grip is better because you can keep aiming with your thumb while your finger can push the input buttons. The downside to the claw grip, though, is that it is a little bit uncomfortable at first, but once you get used to it, I feel like you are able to put in more inputs to control at a time, and therefore, I feel like you are able to perform better in a lot of games. But between all of the grips, I do have my preferences, of course. I've stated them here, but there's no right answer for which grip is best for you. So just try them all out, spend about a couple hours on each one, and see which one feels the best or gives you the best results. Your aim will steadily improve once you have done this, and you will definitely see the results. Okay, everyone, so for this next segment, what we're going to do is we're going to go over the positioning for each of your heroes and Overwatch, where you should be positioning, and kind of also a little bit over like the role of each hero, what you should be doing when you're playing this hero, what your goal is going to be when you're playing this hero in your fight. Whether that's going to be to take control of a high ground, or if it's going to be to put out a lot of damage or get finishing blows. We're going to cover all of that in this section right here. So we're going to go ahead and start off with D.Va. A couple things about D.Va is do not use all of her defense matrix at once, because then you have to wait about 5 seconds, if not more, just to get her defense matrix back to use it. You can use it in the middle of that, but let's say if a tracer is going to pulse bomb you, and you used all your defense matrix earlier, you may not have enough to eat that pulse bomb so that way your team lives. And a couple other things is, like a lot of heroes we're going to go over, you're going to want to make sure you maintain the high ground. You're going to want to stay up here. And you're also going to want to make sure you can contest it from enemies being on the high ground. So now we're moving on to tank number 2, Orisa. And with Orisa, something you want to make sure you do, especially when you're playing with your team and you're trying to push forward, is you want to put your shield out a little bit in front of you. You want to give your team some space. So that way they're able to get in a lot of damage in. They're able to not feel pressured to where they're all in a cramped little box. So something you want to do, put your shields out far, or also if you're just standing there, you can shoot one shield up really high. And so that way you can sit here, your shield will get broken, and then another shield appears for you. Just another good tip for Orisa is whenever you do your pulls, you can shoot while you're doing your pulls, and you can also shoot whenever you put the halt into the middle, when you collapse it together. Now with tank number 3, we're going to move on to Reinhardt. So there's not too much about Reinhardt really to him. You just want to make sure that you're kind of moving your controller from side to side, or your mouse from side to side, so that way you hit both of the enemies in one swing. So try not to use all your shield at once, especially when you're standing in a choke. Don't have your shield sitting out, and just try to play your corners. Because if you play around your corners really good, half your shield isn't even out there to be hit. That means you can just play right here, you can swing around your corner at the enemy team, and you don't have to worry about getting hit. So we're on the tank number 4 now, Roadhog. This is actually one of my personally favorite tanks to play. So just a couple things about Roadhog is, you want to know the combo. So the combo is you want to hook, and right when you hook, you want to press your W key or your toggle forward because you want to walk into them when you hook. And then you want to click your fire button, which is your right trigger or M1, and you want to click melee right when you do that. You can use your take a breather multiple times. So like, I'm not saying you can use it over and over again, but I'm saying that if you take a lot of damage, you only get 400 HP, just go ahead and take a breather. You get a lot of ult charge off of doing that every so often. So now in Sigma, not a lot of tricks you have for Sigma. Pretty much you want to make sure you stay on the high ground, you stay on a flank area, and your shield is going to be devoted to getting rid of enemy flanks. So like you have a Hanzo on your side, you put your shield over here, and your team keeps focusing on the fight. Now we're on the Winston. So for Winston, your jump boost comes back every 6 seconds. You're going to want to make sure you use that many times. Your main goal is going to be, you see an enemy low, you want to get in, and you want to get out. So other things about Winston is you can use him to dive against like enemy Widowmakers and Ashe, because you can jump on them, you can bubble yourself, and then you can dance inside and outside of your bubble, so that way they can't really hurt you. Wrecking Ball is the second newest tank, and for Wrecking Ball, really what you're going to want to do is you want to basically always be going in and out of the enemy team. You want to be putting out a little bit of damage. You don't have to be getting any killing blows, but you definitely just want to be building your minefield. And the thing with Wrecking Ball is your health packs are going to be your friend, because a lot of time, you know, you're going to be in like the enemy backline and stuff, and you're not going to have time to be able to go to your team for any healing. So you're going to want to really learn on maps where the health packs are at, where your resources are, where line of sights are going to be for your healers, depending on where your team is playing at. The final tank, Zarya. So good things about her is you're going to want to position herself, usually if you're playing with a Reinhardt, behind the Reinhardt. If you're playing with a Hog, behind the Hog. Usually she's going to be the tank you're going to play in the mid-range. She's considered an off tank. And what you're going to do is do not use your bubbles at the same time. So I used a bubble there, right? And partner bubble's 8 seconds. But then, you know, I used my personal bubble, which is a 10-second cooldown. Now I have to wait a few more seconds just to get another bubble. So you really want to make sure you keep constant watch of your cooldowns. And another great thing you really want to do is you want to do a lot of right clicks, because they do a lot of spread damage. Beginning with the DPS heroes, we're starting with Ashe. So just a couple things about Ashe is you want to position yourself generally on the high grounds away from the enemy team so you can put in a lot of damage afar. You also want to learn how to do the 2-tap combo. So it's where you do a scope shot, then right after you do your scope shot, you do a unscope shot. The 2-tap combo is really good against heroes like Reaper, where it almost kills them immediately too. Next, we're on Bastion. So a lot of things at Bastion is you want to position yourself, generally you position yourself farther back, you want to be on a high ground. You want to, more importantly, usually stay behind a shield. If you're not playing a shield, it's going to be really hard to play Bastion. You have to play him on kind of a flank, but on a safe flank. And just a couple tips I really have for him is that the longer you're in this mode, the smaller your spread gets. So it is better for you to do this. And if you need to reload, go out of it and shoot 4 shots. And then your ammo is automatically reloaded for your turret form. And all it is 4 shots, and that way you can keep on putting out your DPS numbers without having to worry about stopping the reload. Third, we're on to my personal favorite DPS, and this is my main Doomfist. So just A couple basic things about him is you want to get in and out. You do not want to stay in very long. You'll position yourself in the mid. You'll go on flanks. You want to take control of high ground as well from the enemy team, just so that way you have better positioning. So just a couple things is you never want to use all three of your cooldowns on abilities at once unless you have your ultimate up, so you can use your ultimate to get out. And you never want to use your slam and your punch at the same time. So if you go in, you want to slam, uppercut, and punch out, or you want to punch, uppercut, and slam out. That way you're not staying in, you do damage, and you get right back out. The best tips I have for Echo is that you want to position yourself on high ground. You're going to play about mid-range to your opponents, so close enough where you can get your shots off, but not close enough where Reinhardt could swing at you or a Reaper could hit you. So next we're on the Genji. So just some basic things about Genji. You're usually going to play about really close range because your shurikens do a lot more damage when you're closer. A lot of times you're also going to be wanting to right click just because the right clicking is usually more consistent. It's a lot harder to hit his left clicking shurikens because of the trajectory that they fly at. And the only other thing you really need to know is that his dash resets after every kill. So when I kill the trading bot, you can notice that it comes back and you can dash again right after that. So with Hanzo, you want to generally play about the mid-range. You can play a little bit closer if you want, but you might get killed a little bit faster, and a little long range makes it a little bit harder to hit all your shots. And the only other tip really for Hanzo is you need to really work on his aim, because if you notice, I'm aiming at his head, and it does drop down a little bit from where his head is at. On to Junkrat. Biggest thing with Junkrat, you want to play about mid-range. You want to play behind cover generally too. You can play short range, very ill-advised though, unless you're holding a really tight corner like this where you can bounce your mines off the wall. So you also want to know the combo. So the combo is where you throw a grenade, then you also shoot a mine out. So it's like that, it's really instantaneous, and also knocks you backwards, so that way you can get away from the enemy. On McCree, you're playing about the mid-range. You can play a little bit long range, also kind of like Hanzo. Your best friend is going to be the high ground here. And with his other abilities, so you can flash, and it doesn't necessarily have to be right on enemies. Like, if I flash in between these guys, both of them are stunned there for a second. Another cool trick with McCree, yes, you can do your roll to get your bullets back, but you can also do your Deadeye and cancel it immediately and get all your bullets back as well. Mei plays very close range. You play right behind your shield, or you play right around the corner. Your wall can be put vertically or horizontally depending on how many times you press E, and you can also break wall by pressing E again. When you're in your left shift, your ice block, you do gain your ammo back along with gaining health back. So if you're getting a little bit low, you can use that just to help finish off a little bit of a kill there with it. For Pharah is definitely a long range hero just because you stay in the air. And a couple of tricks of Pharah is that whenever you use your jump boost, whenever you use that ability, you want to pair it with either your missiles, or you want to pair it with your concussion mine. So Reaper is our next hero. He's definitely a close range hero. As you can see, even against an enemy like a Tracer, he pretty much just one-shots instantly. What you're going to want to do with Reaper is you want to play really close range. You can go on flanks, and when you go on flanks, you generally want to try to TP behind. But don't TP behind if you know they have a CC ability like Flash or Hook or Brigitte Shield Bash, because then you're just walking in just to get stunned and then die instantly. That'll feed a lot of your health to them, and you really don't want to do that. So next couple of things is, if you notice I'm on 6 HP, you can just use your Wraith and you instant reload. Also, along with using Wraith to reload, it's like McCree, so you can use your Blossom, and you automatically get your bullets back after a Blossom as well. On to Soldier, so there's not too much for Soldier. Soldier's really just a technical hero. You play long range, mid range, favoring the long range on the high ground a little bit more. And yeah, it's just really, you gotta get used to the recoil. Sombra is gonna be a short range hero. You can play mid range sometimes, but generally you wanna play short range. You wanna be hacking enemies in the back line. That way you can feed your EMP off, because that's really going to be the strongest part of Sombra. Is going to be how fast can you build your EMP. And a big thing about Sombra and her EMP is you want to make sure you hit a support. Specifically, if they have a Zen that you know have Transcendence, if they have a Lucio that you know have Sound Barrier, then you want to hit them with your ultimate, because that is going to guarantee that they can't use that life-saving defensive ult for the enemy team. So on the Symmetra here, there's a little bit of Symmetra. her beam goes higher and higher power the longer you have it active. And so with that, you really just want to make sure you play really close range. You want to set your little sentry turrets up on little areas where they're going to be able to get people in choke, but they're also a little bit hidden so people can't instantly kill them when they walk through. Her beam reloads from hitting the shields. That way you don't have to keep recharging it yourself and you can keep beaming your enemy down. So Torbjorn, he is a mid-range to close-range fighter. You're going to want to make sure that you position yourself behind your team or on a little bit of a flank. And the best thing to learn for Torbjorn is not only that whenever you use your ultimate, you want to use your overloads. That way you have the extra armor buff. You also want to really learn where to place your turrets to get the most value out of them. You want to place them where you think a tracer is going to be. So that way you can stop the tracer from the flank. You can use it to stop Sombras in the middle of her hacks. It's a really useful turret. Now we're on the Tracer. So the big thing about Tracer is that you're going to want to, again, be like Sombra. You're going to want to be in the back line. You're going to want to be dealing out lots of damage, finishing off supports. You're going to want to get your pulse bomb built as fast as possible. Because with Tracer, your pulse bomb should just be another ability that you have. For the final DPS as Widowmaker, this is definitely a long range hero. If you're playing short range, you are more than likely going to die. And the only tip I really have for Widowmaker, you need to play around your geometry well. You need to play around corners. You need to play your high ground. So that way the enemy can't really see you, but you're able to see the enemy. So that way you're able just to click their heads off. Now we're on to our first support. It's going to be Ana. Ana is going to be played at long range. You can play medium range sometimes, especially if you're trying to get nades off on the enemy team or if you're kind of clunked up a little bit together. Do not frontline as Ana. On to the next healer is going to be Baptiste. You're going to want to play medium to long range too. And just a big tip for Baptiste is you're going to want to really focus on positioning where you can see your team, but also where you can deal out a lot of damage. Because you can hold both triggers, you can hold both mouse buttons, and you can shoot and heal at the exact same time. Now this is not always the best thing to do, but you can do it. You also want to be very temperamental about where you play your immortality field. You want to play it around corners so that way your team can use it. But you also have to recognize if you can't see most of your immortality field, then you are not going to get the immortality from it. Next is going to be Brigitte. This is a very frontline hero. You're going to want to play really close, tagged along with your tank line, unless there's a tracer or something. You're going to play a little bit closer back to your other supports. So that way you can stun that tracer to really make them feel like they shouldn't push forward. And the best tip for Brigitte is do not throw armor packs on your team if they are at full HP, because it will not do any kind of healing to them. Now we're on to Lucio. So Lucio, you're going to play about mid to short range. You can definitely go long range if you need to, just put some extra spam damage, but mid range is going to be where he's going to be the most effective at. You're going to want to utilize your speed a lot, because Lucio is the only hero in the game that has the speed ability that he can amplify to all of his teammates. For Mercy, you're going to want to play about at a range like this, close enough to where you can see your teammate, but not too close to them so you can get killed by what they're at. So with Moira, you're going to want to play at about the medium short range. And just another great tip for playing Moira is to either throw a damage orb or healing orb right before you use Coalescence, just to get the extra healing or the extra damage for your team. It'll be crucial in a team fight when you're trying to push in. For our last hero, it's going to be Zenyatta, and really for Zenyatta, you want to just make sure you're vocal. You want to make sure you call out what you are discording. Make sure you also play around your corners at about the mid to long range. The final category I am covering in this video is movement. There are certain ways that you can move that will make it harder for the enemy team to damage you. This mostly is for supports and damage heroes, but it can benefit some tank players too in certain situations. So first is what not to do. Do not stand still. Do not move in straight lines. And do not drop down into the enemy team. So the better alternative to the first two problems is just to be unpredictable. Your movement on the ground should not be just in one direction. You should be strafing back and forth and from side to side. The solution to the third problem we had, just don't drop down into the enemy. On a lot of maps, you have the option where you can take a different route, or you can drop behind the enemy or where they're going to be moving to. So that way you have a better position and you're not dropping down into potentially thousands of damage. Well, that's everything I have for y'all today. If you found this helpful, please come back for more and let us know if there's anything else we can do for you guys. Anyways, see you later. Thank you.